Sarah has $23,000 sitting in a savings account. She checks it every week. It makes her feel safe. It makes her feel responsible. It makes her feel like she is finally doing money right. And it is quietly making her poorer every single year she leaves it there. Not because she is spending too much. Not because she picked the wrong bank. Because in 2026, saving money the way most people save money is a guaranteed, mathematically certain way to lose wealth. And the worst part is that it feels exactly like winning. Today I am going to show you the number Sarah has never calculated, the one that explains why the most financially responsible people in America are falling behind, and exactly what to do instead. Let's build this from the ground up. Money has a feature most people learn about in school, and then immediately forget. It decays. Leave a dollar sitting still long enough, and it buys less than it did when you put it down. Not because the dollar disappeared. Because everything around it got more expensive while it sat there doing nothing. That decay has a name. Inflation. And in 2026, after everything that happened to prices between 2020 and today, inflation is not a textbook concept anymore. It is a number Sarah feels every time she goes to the grocery store, every time she fills up her car, every time she renews her lease. The official inflation rate right now is hovering around 3 to 3.5%. That sounds small. It is not small. At 3.5% inflation, the purchasing power of a dollar cuts in half in about 20 years. Which means the $23,000 Sarah is protecting so carefully will buy roughly $11,500 worth of goods 2 decades from now, even if the number on the screen still says $23,000. She did not lose money. She lost what the money could do. And that distinction is everything. Now here is where it gets specific. Sarah's savings account is at one of the 4 largest banks in America. Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank. She picked it because her parents banked there. She has had the account since college. It pays her 0.4% interest per year. On $23,000, that is $92 a year. Less than $8 a month. That is what the bank pays her to hold her money, lend it to other people at 7, 8, 9%, and hand her back $92 for the privilege. Meanwhile, inflation is eroding her purchasing power at 3.5% a year. That is $805 a year in real value disappearing from her account. Subtract the $92 she earned and Sarah's net loss in real terms is about $713 a year. Every year. While the account balance goes up slightly, and she feels like she is doing the right thing. Sarah is not saving her way to security. She is slowly, invisibly, silently losing a war she does not even know she is fighting. Thumbs up. This is not a Sarah problem. This is a structure problem. The big banks do not need to compete for your deposits. They have enough of them. So they pay you almost nothing and count on the fact that switching feels like a hassle and inertia feels like safety. And they're right. Most people never move their money. Most people never calculate the real cost of staying. Let's calculate it now. If Sarah leaves $23,000 in her big bank savings account for 30 years at 0.4%, she ends up with about $26,000. 30 years of patience. 30 years of discipline. 30 years of doing the responsible thing. And she has $3,000 more than she started with. In today's dollars, adjusted for 3.5% inflation, that $26,000 is worth about $9,400. She did not build wealth. She destroyed it slowly enough that it never felt like a crisis. Now let's run the same $23,000 through a different decision. A high-yield savings account at a reputable online bank in 2026 is paying somewhere between 4 and 4.6% interest. Let's use 4.2%. At 4.2%, Sarah's $23,000 grows to about $81,000 over 30 years. Same money, same discipline, same zero risk, because both accounts are FDIC insured up to $250,000. The only difference is the 4 digits after the decimal point on the interest rate. That gap, from $26,000 to $81,000, is $55,000. $55,000 Sarah left on the table because switching banks felt like something she would do eventually. That is the first number. But it is not the number that changes everything. The number that changes everything comes next. Meet Daniel. Daniel and Sarah went to the same university. They graduated the same year. They earned almost exactly the same income, $62,000 a year. They both saved $23,000 over the last 4 years. They are both responsible, budget-conscious, bill-paying adults who would describe themselves as careful with money. The difference is what Daniel did with the $23,000 after he saved it. Sarah kept hers in the big bank account. Daniel moved his into a low-cost total market index fund and left it alone. He did not pick stocks. He did not time the market. He did not watch financial news or follow a single analyst. He set it, left it, and went back to his life. At the historical average return of roughly 10% per year. Daniel's $23,000 grows to about $400,000 over 30 years. Not $81,000. Not $26,000. $400,000 from the same $23,000 that Sarah used to feel safe. The gap between what Sarah has and what Daniel has at the end of 30 years is not a gap in income. It is not a gap in effort. It is not a gap in financial genius. It is a gap in where the money sat while time did its work. Here is what most people hear when they see that number. That sounds risky. I could lose it all. The market crashes. And that response is completely understandable, because the market does crash. It crashed in 2008. It crashed in 2020. It will crash again. Nobody knows when, and nobody knows how far. That is a real risk, and it deserves a real answer, not a dismissal. Here is the real answer. Over every 20-year period in the history of the U.S. stock market, the market has been positive. Every single one. If you zoom out far enough, the volatility that feels catastrophic in the moment disappears into the slope of a line going up and to the right. Sarah's savings account has zero volatility. It also has near zero growth. She traded the discomfort of watching a number drop temporarily for the certainty of watching her real wealth erode permanently. One of those risks is visible. The other one is invisible. The invisible one is winning. But here is what this channel always does. Let's be honest about the full picture instead of just making one side sound perfect. The index fund strategy has real vulnerabilities that the financial content world loves to skip over. Sequence of returns risk is the most dangerous one nobody explains clearly. If Daniel needs his money at exactly the wrong moment, right after a major crash, he could be forced to sell at a loss and never recover the gains he gave up. A 30-year average return of 10% means nothing if your 28 is 2008 and he needs the money in year 29. This is why the money in an index fund needs to be money you genuinely do not need for at least 10 years. Ideally longer. If Sarah needs her $23,000 in the next 2 years for a house down payment, the savings account is the right answer. But if that $23,000 is long-term wealth she is building for retirement or financial independence, the savings account is a very expensive form of false safety. This brings us to the framework that actually works. Not one account. Not one strategy. A structure. Money has different jobs and each job needs a different tool. The first job is emergency reserves. 3 to 6 months of living expenses that you can access tomorrow if everything goes wrong. This money belongs in a high-yield savings account, not a big bank account, but not the stock market either. It needs to be stable, liquid, and earning as much as possible while staying safe. In 2026, that means an online bank paying 4% or better. The second job is short-term goals. A house down payment, a car you are saving for, a planned expense in the next 1 to 5 years. This also belongs in a high-yield savings account or a short-term treasury bond, because you cannot afford the market's volatility on a timeline this short. The third job is long-term wealth. Retirement. Financial independence. Money you will not touch for a decade or more. This belongs in the market, inside a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA or a 401k, invested in a low-cost index fund. Period. The big bank savings account does not have a job in this framework. It is not the best tool for any of these three categories. It exists because inertia is powerful and switching feels like effort. Now let's talk about the 401k specifically, because this is where the single most expensive mistake lives for most working Americans. Sarah has a 401k through her employer. She contributes 3% of her salary because that is what she set it to when she started the job 3 years ago and never changed. Her employer matches up to 5%. Sarah is leaving 2% of her $62,000 salary unmatched every year. That is $1,240 a year in free money she is declining. Not low interest money. Not market return money. Free money. A 100% instant return on $1,240 that she is handing back to her employer every single year because she never logged back in to change the contribution rate. Over 30 years, that uncaptured match, invested and compounding at 10%, is worth approximately $216,000. $216,000. From a number she set in an online form during her first week of work and forgot to update. If Sarah does nothing else from this video, nothing, and she simply logs into her 401k portal today and raises her contribution to 5%, she will capture $216,000 in additional retirement wealth over her career from money that was already available to her. Here is the pattern underneath all of this. Saving money is not the problem. Saving money is essential. The problem is conflating saving with growing. They are two different activities that require two different tools. Saving is about protection. It is defensive. It preserves what you have, keeps it accessible, shields it from disaster. Growing is about offense. It puts money to work, accepts some discomfort in exchange for compound returns, and builds wealth over time. The trap Sarah fell into, the trap millions of financially responsible people fall into, is doing only the defensive thing and calling it a financial strategy. She saved her emergency fund. Good. She saved her down payment money. Good. She saved an additional $23,000 with no specific job assigned to it. And then she left all of it in the same account doing the same defensive nothing, because moving it somewhere felt like risk and leaving it felt like safety. That instinct is not wrong. It is just incomplete. Safety and growth are not the same thing, and pretending there is costing her a number she has not yet calculated. Let's put the full picture in one place. Sarah's big bank account, $23,000 earning 0.4%, losing 3.1% per year in real terms, worth $9,400 in today's dollars in 30 years. Same $23,000 in a high-yield savings account at 4.2%, worth $81,000 in 30 years, still fully insured, still fully liquid, zero additional risk. Same $23,000 invested in a low-cost index fund with a 30-year horizon, worth approximately $400,000. And the 2% employer match she is not capturing, worth $216,000 over a career. These are not investments requiring expertise. They are not strategies requiring a financial advisor who charges 1% of her assets every year to underperform the index. They are account types, available to anyone, requiring nothing more than a login, a form, and the decision to stop letting inertia manage her money. Here is what I want you to take from this. The financial system in 2026 is not designed to help you build wealth. It is designed around your inertia. The big banks pay 0.4% because they know most people will not move. The 401k default contribution is set low because most people will not change it. The savings account feels safe because safety is what they market, not growth. Every dollar sitting in the wrong account is not just a dollar not growing. It is a dollar being slowly taxed by inflation while the bank uses it to grow their balance sheet. Sarah is not failing because she is irresponsible. She is failing because she is doing exactly what the system was designed to get her to do. Stay comfortable. Stay put. Do not make moves. Do not ask what the rate is. Do not calculate the real return. Just feel safe and call it a strategy. The people building wealth in 2026 are not smarter than Sarah. They just ran the number she has not run yet. And now you have. Pull up your savings account right now. Find the interest rate. Then find a high-yield savings account paying 4% or better. Move anything that does not have a job in the next 5 years into an index fund inside a tax-advantaged account. Log into your 401k and capture every dollar of your employer match. None of this is complicated. None of it requires a financial genius. It requires about 2 hours and the willingness to stop letting inertia make your financial decisions for you. Because in 2026, the most dangerous thing you can do with money is nothing. Subscribe to my channel to watch more finance videos like this.